The lights inside the massive theater were blinding, but somewhere behind that curtain stood a boy whose heart was beating louder than the crowd outside. Before you even see his face, before a single note is sung, let me ask you something. Have you ever witnessed a moment so powerful that it changed a life forever in just a few minutes? Stay with this story until the very end, because what you're about to experience isn't just a performance, it's a miracle in motion. And if stories like this touch your heart, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel, because moments like these deserve to be shared with the world. He was just a Filipino boy from a small, struggling town, where dreams often get buried under the weight of daily survival. His house was made of thin wood and rusted tin sheets, and when it rained, the sound on the roof was louder than any music. Electricity came and went, food was never guaranteed, and hope was something his family held onto very tightly. Music, however, was the one thing that never left him. While other kids played outside, he sang. He sang while helping his mother wash clothes, while his father fixed broken tools, and even while walking barefoot on dusty roads. His voice wasn't trained, it wasn't polished, but it carried something rare: pain, longing, and truth. His love for Elvis Presley began with an old, scratched CD he found in a local market. The cover was faded, but the moment he heard that voice, something awakened inside him. Elvis didn't just sing, he told stories through sound, and the boy felt understood. He began mimicking those songs, not to copy, but to feel closer to a dream he couldn't even name yet. Neighbors would stop and listen when he sang. Some smiled, some cried, and some said, "This boy has something special." But talent alone doesn't change a life. Opportunity does. That opportunity arrived in the form of a talent show audition thousands of miles away. The idea sounded impossible. They had no money, no connections, and no guarantee. His parents hesitated, afraid of disappointment, afraid of failure. But when they looked into their son's eyes and saw how badly he wanted this, they decided to take a risk. They borrowed money, sold what little they could, and prayed harder than ever before. This wasn't just his dream anymore, it was theirs. Standing on the stage, he looked tiny compared to the judges' table. Simon Cowell sat there, known for his brutal honesty. The audience whispered, unsure of what to expect. When asked about his background, the boy spoke softly, his voice shaking as he mentioned his family and his love for singing. Simon raised an eyebrow, the way he always does, signaling curiosity mixed with doubt. The music started, slow and familiar, and then the boy opened his mouth. What came out stunned everyone. It wasn't just an Elvis impression. It was deeper, richer, filled with emotion far beyond his years. The theater went silent. You could hear people holding their breath. His voice carried heartbreak, resilience, and raw power, as if every struggle he'd ever faced was pouring out through each note. Simon leaned forward. The judges exchanged glances. Some audience members already had tears in their eyes. As the song built, the boy closed his eyes, completely lost in the music. In that moment, he wasn't poor, he wasn't scared, and he wasn't small. He was a star. When he hit the final note, the silence lasted a second longer than expected, and then the room exploded. The crowd stood up screaming. Judges were clapping uncontrollably. One of them wiped away tears. Simon Cowell looked genuinely shaken. Simon spoke slowly, carefully choosing his words. He admitted he had expected something ordinary. What he got was extraordinary. He said the boy didn't just sing better than Elvis in that moment, he made the song his own. The boy's knees trembled as he listened, hardly believing what he was hearing. Then Simon stood up, smiled, and slammed his hand on the golden buzzer. Golden confetti rained down as the boy collapsed to the floor in shock. He cried openly, overwhelmed by joy, disbelief, and gratitude. His parents screamed from backstage, holding each other as years of sacrifice finally felt worth it. That golden buzzer wasn't just a ticket to the next round, it was a symbol of hope, not just for him, but for millions of kids watching around the world who come from nothing but dream of everything. As the show continued, the boy faced new challenges. The pressure grew heavier. People expected perfection now. Doubts crept in. What if he couldn't live up to that moment? What if it was just luck? But each time he felt weak, he remembered where he came from. He remembered singing under a leaking roof, imagining a stage he'd never seen. That memory grounded him and gave him strength. By the end of the season, whether he won the competition or not no longer mattered. He had already won something bigger: belief. Belief in himself, belief in dreams, and belief that talent combined with perseverance can break even the hardest barriers. His story reminded everyone watching that greatness doesn't come from wealth or privilege, but from passion, courage, and heart. So if you're watching this right now, feeling like your situation is holding you back, remember this boy. Remember that one voice, one moment, can change everything. If this story inspired you even a little, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs hope today. Because dreams don't have an address, and sometimes, the most powerful voices come from the quietest places. The lights inside the enormous auditorium shimmered like 1,000 tiny stars, but behind the curtain stood a boy whose world had never known such brightness. His hands trembled, his breath felt heavy, and his heart beat so loudly it felt like the audience could hear it. Before you watch another second, before this story unfolds any further, ask yourself this: can a single song change a destiny forever? Stay with this journey until the very end, because what happens next is not just about music, it's about hope, sacrifice, and a dream that refused to die. And if stories like this move your heart, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel, because every like helps stories like this reach someone who needs inspiration today. He was born in a small Filipino village where life was simple but never easy. The mornings began early, with roosters crowing and his mother preparing rice over a small stove. His father worked odd jobs, fixing engines, carrying loads, doing anything that could bring food to the table. Some days were good, some days were painfully quiet. But no matter how hard things became, one thing always filled the air of their tiny home: his voice. He sang while sweeping the floor, while fetching water, while watching the sunset paint the sky orange and pink. Singing was not a hobby for him, it was an escape from reality, a place where hunger, fear, and struggle didn't exist. There was no music school, no vocal coach, and no fancy microphone. His first audience was his family, his neighbors, and sometimes the stray dogs that sat quietly near him when he sang late at night. People would stop walking just to listen. Some laughed in disbelief, others whispered prayers, and a few wiped away tears without knowing why. His voice carried something ancient, something deeply emotional. It wasn't perfect, but it was honest. And honesty, when sung, becomes powerful. One afternoon, while helping his father repair an old radio, he stumbled upon a scratched CD someone had thrown away. On it was written one name: Elvis Presley. When the music played, the boy froze. The voice that came out of that broken speaker felt like it reached straight into his chest. Elvis didn't just sing songs, he told stories of love, loneliness, and longing. The boy listened again and again, memorizing every note, every pause. He didn't want to be Elvis. He wanted to feel what Elvis felt when he sang. Years passed, and his voice grew stronger, deeper, more emotional. But life grew harder too. School became difficult, money became scarcer, and there were moments when his parents wondered if dreams were a luxury they couldn't afford. Still, every time the boy sang, they saw a light in him that refused to go out. When they heard about auditions for a world-famous talent show, it felt like a cruel joke. The stage was thousands of miles away. The cost was impossible. The chances were almost zero. But sometimes, faith speaks louder than fear. With borrowed money, prayers whispered at night, and hearts full of hope, they made the journey. The boy had never been on such a big road, never seen such tall buildings, never imagined such a massive crowd. Everything felt overwhelming. Backstage, contestants warmed up their voices, some confident, some nervous. The boy stood quietly in the corner, holding his lucky necklace, reminding himself why he was there: not for fame, not for money, but to sing his truth. When his turn came, the stage felt colder than expected. The judges sat like giants behind their desk, especially Simon Cowell, whose reputation alone could crush dreams. The boy introduced himself softly, his accent thick, his hands shaking. He spoke about his family, his village, and how music saved him. Simon listened, unreadable, as always. Then the music started. The first note silenced the room. What followed was something no one expected. His voice was rich, emotional, and haunting. It wasn't imitation, it was transformation. He took an Elvis classic and filled it with his own pain, his own hope, his own story. Each lyric felt lived, not learned. The audience leaned forward. Some held their mouths in shock. Others began to cry without realizing it. Simon's expression changed. The skeptical look disappeared, replaced by genuine astonishment. The other judges exchanged glances, silently asking the same question: where did this boy come from? As the song built, the boy's fear melted away. He forgot the cameras, the crowd, the judges. He sang like he always had, like a child from a small village dreaming bigger than his world allowed. When he reached the final note, his voice soared, raw and powerful, then faded into silence. For one heartbeat, there was nothing. Then the theater exploded. The audience jumped to their feet, screaming, clapping, chanting his name. Judges stood up, some wiping tears, others laughing in disbelief. The boy stood frozen, unsure if what he was seeing was real. Simon picked up his microphone and spoke slowly, his voice unusually soft. He said he had heard many singers try to sing Elvis, but very few made him feel something new. He told the boy that what he just witnessed was not just talent, but destiny. Then Simon stood, walked forward, and hit the golden buzzer. Golden confetti rained from the ceiling like a dream come true. The boy dropped to his knees, crying uncontrollably. He covered his face, overwhelmed by emotion he had never felt before. Backstage, his parents screamed, hugged, and cried, knowing their sacrifices had not been in vain. That moment wasn't just a victory, it was a message to the world. But the journey didn't end there. With fame came pressure. Expectations grew heavier with every performance. Online comments praised him, but some doubted him. Critics questioned whether he could do it again. The boy struggled with fear, sometimes losing his voice to stress, sometimes doubting his worth. Yet every time he felt weak, he remembered his home, his parents' tired hands, and the nights he sang under a leaking roof. Each performance after that became stronger, deeper, more confident. He didn't just sing songs, he told stories of struggle, resilience, and hope. He represented every child who had been told their dreams were too big for where they came from. By the end of the competition, winning or losing no longer defined him. He had already achieved something greater. He proved that dreams have no borders, no price tag, and no limits. His voice became a symbol of hope for millions watching around the world. Today, when people hear his name, they remember that golden buzzer moment. But more importantly, they remember what it stood for: a poor Filipino boy who sang with so much heart that even Simon Cowell couldn't resist pressing that golden button. So if you're watching this and wondering if your dream is too big, remember him. Remember that sometimes, all it takes is one moment, one song, and one brave step forward. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs to believe again. Because the world is full of hidden voices, just waiting for their chance to be heard.